Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters show, down-to-earth discussions on spirituality, metaphysics, paranormal, and healing topics. The Sedona Soul Sisters are the most trusted psychic mediums in Sedona, Arizona. We are Rosalind Reynolds, myself, Ivory Lanou, Terri-ann Russell, and Melissa Brace. We have offices in Sedona where we see clients from all over the world. Today's topic, being that it's just before Valentine's Day, is twin flames and soulmates. Boy, that's a question. We get a lot of questions about those topics all the time, don't we, ladies? And it's not always what people think it is. I know two people here, two of the Sedona Soul Sisters, are in relationships with twin flames, so they're going to be able to give you a lot of information about what that felt like. But I thought we could start with soulmates because there's so much misinformation about that, and expectations may be a little skewed. Roz, you've got this little grin on your face. What do you want to say about that?
Just as so many people are desperately seeking their twin flame or their soulmate. And the reality is they build up so much expectation and hope and the focus of envisioning this incredibly wonderful, completely satisfying relationship. There are aspects of that, but the reality is it's about you growing, you being challenged, your partner growing and being challenged. So it's not all roses. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions I think people have, is that it's going to be incredibly amazing and wonderful, and there's never going to be at any point a time when you're in contrast with each other, hopefully not in combat, but
Is that the word that came to the tip of your mind?
Yes, and because it's so challenging to work through. It's the twin flame situation is like you're looking at your mirror and many of the things that you haven't really resolved. So both of you are working constantly.
Well, if you want to start with twin flames, let's focus on twin flames then. I thought we'd kind of segue from soulmates into that, but you guys are both in twin flame relationships, and Roz, you've got a powerful story about when you and Ed realized that there was something really different going on. Do you want to relate that story?
Well, I am for everything about what I do. I'm quite a skeptic about a lot of things, and I always thought the whole concept of like the twin flame, almost like a Cupid thing, like you're suddenly stricken with love together with this other person, and it's like so amazing. Well, I always thought that was just baloney. I was like, oh, brother, this is somebody's fairy tale. I'm not paying any attention to this. So I happened to be at a point in my life, and so was my partner, Ed, where we were done. I was not looking for anything. I was not seeking anything. I was perfectly happy and content in my situation alone. And I had a lot of people offering to connect me with someone, and I kept saying, nope, I am so good. I'm good. Then along comes Ed. I had no interest, no expectation, no nothing. And we met, and in fact, when we first met, I was really not attracted to him at all. I was like, he was my one of my friend's brothers. So, we would have occasion to run into each other. We lived in a very small town. And of course, being friends with her. So one evening I was working in this cute little consignment store that she managed. So I dropped by her house one evening after work, and he was there. And we had encountered each other a few times before. I was like, oh, yeah, We sat down catty cornered from each other across the room. And at the very same moment, I mean, it was like, hi, how are you? Yeah, good, blah. We looked at each other, and it was a lightning bolt. And both of us rocked back in our chair and went, and, you know, Ed's sister, my friend, was sitting there, Lisa, and she said it first. She said, what was that? You could hear it, and it was palpable. And I was just stunned. I mean, I literally left shortly after that because I sort of went stumbling off home like, what was that? What was that thing? And from that point on, I mean, it was like somebody up there had sent a bolt of electricity. And I've talked to a lot of people about this sense because people experience this and they truly are knocked flat. And we were knocked flat. From that point on, we were inseparable. And it was just the weirdest thing. And I'm such a doubting Thomas about that kind of stuff. So I really had to like reanalyze how I feel about things and how I think about things. And I never had any doubt that that was it. It was just amazing. It's almost indescribable.
Very interesting. Hopefully, some people listening are going to recognize that experience and go, oh my gosh, yes, oh my gosh, I have my twin flame, or at least I met my twin flame.
Well, and the interesting thing is, I do a fair amount of couples work, and I never, before that experience, people would tell me the story of how they met and they just knew instantly, and there was this huge, like, click, and everything started happening, and they felt terrified, out of control. And I used to think to myself, eh, calm down. It'll all settle into place like it needs to. Well, surprise! I had to take my own advice. So it's just an almost indescribable event in your life. And you know, the thing is that you don't you don't have the same you don't have the same view of things on everything. I mean, there's things where we're just like total polar opposites on how we see things. But we just kind of go, oh, okay, well, we'll have to agree to disagree on that.
Well, the world could take a lesson on that attitude right now.
I wish the world would.
Terri-ann, I know when you met
Relax.
your husband, who's your twin flame, that it was a little different, but still powerful. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, when we met, I had this knowing about him. I couldn't explain it at the time because I had just started to spiritually open. But there was this feeling and a trust that I had not felt before in any other relationship. And it was like, I say it still today, I could like look into his eyes forever. And that's really what attracted me about him. And then there was this knowing. There's something about him that I just knew. There was this resonance that I couldn't explain to anybody. And I was very cautious, like Roz. I did not want to be in a relationship. I had been out of a long marriage, and but I was on a dating site, and so it was really funny because, like Roz said, similar to her story, Tim was really done looking. He had been on a dating site for a while, and he had been separated, I think, about 6 years. Me, it was only like 6 months, so I was not really ready or looking, but I thought, oh, I'd play with it and see what happens. And so his subscription was going to end, my subscription was going to end, and we don't still know how it happened, but you have to like wink at each other. So he says he didn't wink at me, and I say I didn't wink at him. So something from a higher power just connected us. And because I was like, I never wink at anybody, and he's like, but I didn't wink at you, you know. So we would go back and forth, and we laugh about it now. But when we met, it was like, again, that feeling, that resonance is what really drew me to him. And I feel like just it's just such an amazing connection. But like Roz said, it is that sometimes the butting of the heads. We were both I was already starting to spiritually open, he was not. So, you know, we're together about 7 years now. We both went through an immense amount of growth together. And so through our relationship, you know, everything has sort of changed and shifted, and we're both able to see from the other side. We still do butt heads like Roz and Ed. Once in a while, we cannot come to an agreement on certain things, and like she said, sometimes you just have to agree to disagree, and that's just, you know, those things are not going to be changed. But I'd have to say, overall for us, it's been an amazing experience. But there has been moments where it's been a little bit deeper and more intense.
When I listen to you guys talking about this, and especially I think Roz's experience, I'm like flashing back to high school and this really crazy experience I had. I was at a party and I was 16, and a guy came, like it was very crowded, and it was at a house, but a guy came into the room from the other side of the room. I don't remember having seen him before, but as it turns out, we went to the same small church. So I don't know if he just didn't go to church before that or what, but I digress. So he came into the room and our eyes met from like 50 feet away. And I remember like something hit me in the heart chakra. And yes, I was attracted to him, but it was far more than that. Like, and he, like, both of us just froze. And like people were asking us, are you okay? Because they couldn't tell, like, we were looking at each other across the room. And we did end up dating. But I always wondered, like, you know, I'm thinking about this now, like, what if that was my twin flame and this knucklehead got a different knucklehead, a total knucklehead got in the way of that and broke us up, and we did not get back together. I married somebody else, he married somebody else, and, you know, he just lives across the mountain. But I haven't seen him since I was in my 20s. But I still remember that experience, and I've never had anything like it since then. I always thought, I described it, and I told you, Roz, I thought that was like love at first sight. But I think it's more than that, because it just hit me so much in the heart chakra, like a blow, almost like a blow.
Literally, yeah. Certainly what I experienced.
So you're
And
right,
it was
especially with
so
twin flames.
stunning.
With twin flames, people think it's all going to be roses and lollipops every single day, every minute. They think that it's like living with yourself, but it's not, is it?
Not in our case. Although, you know, we live in a very small space, and we get along really well, but there are certain subjects that we just do not agree on. And I mean, I've gotten to the point where I'm going, okay, let's not talk about this, because neither one of us right now are open to growing and changing on this subject. And, you know, we both can be incredibly stubborn. I mean, I'm an Aries and he's a Taurus. So, you know, doesn't get much more hard headed than that. So we just have accepted that, we have to just go off of those subjects. The interesting thing to me, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, I think your twin flame is so much different than a soulmate. A soulmate situation, I mean, I've met a lot of people in my life that I knew instantly I knew them. I knew them from before. We've been together somewhere sometime. we know each other, and they're not necessarily romantic relationships. I mean, friends, people that, you encounter and you just connect with them on a frequency level that's very intense. So I think everybody has romanticized a little bit the twin flame thing, which is so challenging at times. I mean, I sometimes, you just have to like go, okay, I think I'm going to go read a book for a while because we can't talk about this.
I think
So,
the biggest misconception is that, what was I going to say here? I totally lost my thought. The
uh-oh.
biggest misconception about the twin flames, is that everyone's going to find their twin flame in every lifetime. So people will come and they're like, when will I meet my twin flame? And the first thing I say is, let's look at whether you're going to meet your twin flame in this lifetime. And then let's look at whether they're going to be, the timing is going to be right. Like sometimes your twin flame might be an inappropriate age for you. Maybe you're in your 40s and they're a teenager. There's no guarantee your twin flame is going to be in the right age group for you to be in a romantic relationship with. What if they're already married and happily, and they don't want to rock their relationship that they have? Or what if you're married? I have a client who they're both married and they met, and it is neither one of them wants to rock their relationship, and yet it's tearing them apart. They just want to be together, and yet they are not. They're not allowing it to go to romantic, and they're trying not to communicate because it makes it harder. So I think that's a big point too, is I think when you find your twin flame, it's a rarity.
I think that situation that you're describing there is one of the most difficult. When you're both already in, a marriage in which you are happy, and then you connect with this, I don't know, do you want to call it karmic? What do you, it's definitely a connection from before, and it's so intense, and there's so much emotional and spiritual attraction. And then, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, there's usually a tremendous amount of sexual chemistry in those relationships too. So it's really difficult to, to be in that situation. I actually feel very fortunate because we were, both at a point where we were ready, even though we didn't think we were, but we were, unattached when we connected. So it really was, made the whole thing easy. And it's funny because we've been together 10 years now, and it does not feel like 10 years. I mean, it feels like just yesterday when I think about the energy
We
of
need to
that.
have a 10-year party for you two.
Yay!
Celebrate. Well, ladies, I'm sure I'm not the only one who has clients coming and asking about this twin flame things, and it's pretty frequent. Like, what are your experiences with that with clients?
I think there's a lot of them. Melissa and I were talking yesterday about twin flames and just how the universe, everything has to like you were saying with these clients that can't be together or that don't want to, ruin their marriages. So many things in the universe has to go right for you to come into this space. It's like we were talking about it yesterday, how many people come in and they're looking for this other piece of them and stuff. So Melissa, I know you see a lot more than I do.
I over the 30 years I was kind of journaling in the last couple of days too, because I've been seeing enormous amounts of signs and synchronicities. Now that's my perspective of receiving, the answers, the truth, and my growth. And overall, I personally think I have a web page about twin flames. It's called SedonaSacredUnion.com about this, because I think that like Roz was saying, it's maybe a bigger subject or a bigger box than we really know. It's not just that one, narrative, that one story about, just like, the knight in shining armor comes. And in my journaling this morning, I was writing, I wish I could say it was, just like the movie, we wake up and our hair is all perfect and cash flies through the ceiling and it's all just fine. But it's really a tumultuous sometimes path of self-growth and learning. And so that, again, like we were saying earlier, the mirror part, and then you look at the bigger picture and you go, God, how could all of those synchronicities throughout my lifetime, since seventh grade, since second grade, pull me to this point where we're standing in front of each other? That's impossible. And then the growth continues and the growth continues. And with many clients, I just think there are some, especially in maybe the last 2 months, because I think there's been a lot of shifting. I keep going, whoo, these people are clearly twin flames. And that you see the signs, and they live on opposite sides of the world with many obstructions and blockages, to their path. And I'd go inside, I could just see it. The people coming together, the truth, like maybe you run into the guy that lives on the other side of the mountain at the grocery store, an accident, you think, and it happens again, and you lock eyes and you think, I knew it. And the energies that we have in us, our wounds, our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings, sometimes interferes with that union, that mirror. And we have to learn and grow and be separate sometimes for a while until we get to the next step and bridge those blockages, bridge those separations. And like Terri-ann was saying, I mean, we were talking about it yesterday, like it's almost unthinkable how cool the synchronicities and the steps that, like, connecting the dots have been towards some of our twin flame experiences or in clientele, that I've seen that are just, it seems impossible. It seems like against all odds. Everybody everywhere hates you and they do not want you together. The street blew up in front of you yesterday, but oh, there you are standing in front of each other. You can't run and hide. And to me, it just feels like another way of saying, like, thanks God, thanks universe, thanks light, because we're not quite catching it all. Like, we're not quite catching on, like in our learning and growth experiences, we don't quite know all the answers yet. And I can never get over it. Roz, for
Yeah.
maybe for 10 or 12 years, I've been saying, bah, humbug, I hate this subject. I don't like it. No one knows what they're talking about. I have been a cranky bag of nuts about this. And yet I keep getting nudged to, in our work to do work with the twin flame soulmate thing, the sacred union thing. And so I couldn't run or hide from my own resistance or my own skepticism or my own foolishness, really, or my own wounds. And I think it's cool. I'm seeing that in other people. So other people are being mirrors for me and back and forth so that we can learn and grow and come together, right? Come together in balance, come together in our twin flame unions. It's pretty cool.
I feel like part of the reason that person keeps getting put in front of us again and again and is because we have to break through the illusions we have of whether it's a soulmate or a twin flame, of what that's going to be like. We're looking for this person who's got this golden light, shining around them. It's just going to be another human being, and it's a soul connection. And you can be trying to think so hard and looking for a certain thing that's not the reality. And so I feel like they do keep getting put in front of us again, so that we'll eventually wake up. So, and Melissa, you mentioned something I think we should talk about. Let's start with twin flames. What is the signs that you've met your twin flame?
I think it would be different for everyone, but I think there are many where it's the overwhelming just knowing. And so, like Ross was saying, you know, you meet different soulmates and friends and people in your life, whether it's for many years or just for 5 minutes, and you know them inside. But that twin flame, there's almost like a safety. And I've experienced things. So, you know, this is how my perspective is. I do see visual things. I mean, like, you know, the animals come together and, you know, you just know, or you see the coded signs, the numbers, the 1111 or whatever, or you break through what other people are trying to tell you and you go, I cannot unsee this. I cannot unknow this. But I've even seen, for me, this is just an example of one that I cannot ever get over. Like I can never explain to myself, but we were sitting and we saw an infinity symbol in the sky glowing, the green blue, and then another one, the pink. And I thought, okay, I think I need to go to the hospital. I don't know what's going on, but the signs will be so great that you can't explain out of it. And then in your soul, you feel safe is what my small box words can go for. That's, you know, just unmistakable to your own soul. Nobody else but yourself. So what do you guys think? What are your signs? Because I think Ross and Ed's story is the best ever. It just makes me giggle for years where I go, okay, tell me again. When you first met, the whole earth shook and it was like a lightning bolt. Tell again. Tell me some of the, you know, all of you, what are your signs in what you've recognized?
I can't answer that because I'm not in a twin flame relationship. And the one that's probably was my twin flame, that got busted up so quick, it's not even funny. So didn't get to really examine that. And I was 16.
Yeah. I would say for me, it would have to be this level of trust and knowing, because I was in a very tumultuous relationship before. So for me, trusting was really, really difficult for me to do. But I felt this trust within him. And I again, it's a not knowing what it was at the time, but I knew I felt safe with him, and I knew um he was here to teach me a lot. So I had this knowing beyond what I knew. And we talk about that plenty of times too. Like, you can't explain it. There are no words for it. It's just, I mean, I even went away with him. We took the kids on a little camping trip, and we knew each other maybe 4 weeks. And I never, ever, ever would have done anything like that with anybody in my entire life. So I was like, oh my, there has to be something more that I'm missing. And I think I was telling Melissa yesterday, we came to Sedona for a reading. We were together only maybe a few months, and our psychic said to us, "Oh, you guys have been together before." And I'm like, "I knew it. I knew that I knew you. I knew there was something about this." And so he was like, "Whatever, you know." But I think he's felt it too. We've talked about it. And when he goes back, you know, and at the time he was very guarded. So for him, it was, his experience is different than my experience. But as he's grown and we go back and we look at it, and he's like, yeah, there was something that I couldn't understand. Something, like I always say, we were how old were we? 45. And so we had always been looking for this feeling of intense love. And it took us 45 years to find it. And when you find it, it's like, again, you're thinking, oh, this is going to be all, you know, rainbows and butterflies. And it's not. We had to sort of do all of that unraveling. And the more work that I did, I found the more that he grew too. And he would see things changing and happening and shifting, especially after Anthony died. I think that really opened his eyes to, he started having his own experiences. And so, you know, a lot of my growth came, and then a lot of his growth came. But I'd say that trusting, that knowing, that I knew I was always safe with him. I never worried like I did in my past relationship.
I understand that, like having trust issues, and that must have been so powerful for you to realize how much you trusted Tim so quickly. That's a really good point. I think one thing about the whole experience, probably my big pet peeve about twin flame soulmate is I concerned that there's a lot of people who are so focused on finding their twin flame that they end up not in a relationship. They end up never being in a committed relationship that really is meaningful with deep love for them. So again, it's so rare to meet your twin flame. It's amazing two of us, of the four of us, are in a twin flame relationship. That's not normal. So I think that it's important to just find a partner who you connect with very deeply and you love very deeply. And if you're meant to be in a twin flame relationship, that'll be brought to you. But if you're waiting and you're getting into your 40s and 50s and you're still looking for your twin flame, maybe it's not meant to happen in this lifetime. So I think that some reality in the search for this is very important so people don't end up in no relationship. So you don't want to settle for somebody that's not the right person, but there's plenty of soulmates out there. And let's talk about that. Probably the biggest misconception is, who is my soulmate? Okay, well, you have a multitude, you have a number of soulmates and different kinds of soulmates. And my daughter is a soulmate of mine. And we talk about that a lot. And I've had my dear friend Tony, who passed away a few years ago, was a soulmate of mine. There's, it can be your parent, a friend, a coworker, a child, it just a sibling, and it could be a romantic connection. So soulmates are, there's different kinds.
I think the other thing, that is a huge part of this is realizing that people, I remember I wrote a blog about the twin flame and situation a while back, and with a soulmate, whether they are, like you're saying, friend, family, there's an immediate kind of level of comfort with them. You feel comfortable with them, but it's different because there's not that underlying spark sexual chemistry thing. And so many people I've talked to that have encountered their twin flame, it's fiery. I mean, it is, not necessarily that they meet each other and they're incredibly in love immediately. Sometimes they're adversaries. And that's a part of it too. So I think that, to me, that's a big difference that I feel between, when we connect with someone on a soul level and we know that we've known them before, and whether it's a relation in your family, a family member, it's almost like it's an extended family of souls that have been connected, in another dimension of time and space. I mean, literally, there's that connectivity. So I feel like this is a part of the confusion where people get in so much questioning about, well, how come this isn't my twin flame? I've had people say, where is my twin flame? How come this person isn't my twin flame? So
How do you answer that one?
you know
Because they're not.
you just have to really look at the events that are going on. And I think I've never known anybody who was in a true twin flame, situation where there wasn't some conflict of some kind. Because that mirror thing. I mean, that you're looking at each other, you're seeing things in yourself and in them that kind of stir up the need to grow, to be challenged, etc. That's not always true in soulmate situations.
Yeah, I think that's true very frequently. I'll go back to my friend Tony. He's passed, so he's not going to sue me or anything, but he would laugh at this. He comes to visit me a lot. So Tony and I had a lot of conflict, but we really felt drawn to each other. Like as soon as we met, we were both married to other people. It was not about that. It was this just soul connection. And he and I would butt heads tremendously sometimes, but still there was that powerful draw. And it was really a feeling of like a soul family member, somebody you've known through multiple lifetimes. Um, and I think that's true with my daughter too. Like some ways we're very alike and some ways we're polar opposites. And yet our love for each other is so, unconditional and deep that nothing gets in the way of our relationship. Nothing gets in the way of that love we have for each other. And we were talking about it yesterday, like how some things going on in the country right now have really disenfranchised family members from each other. And we're like, I cannot even imagine not wanting to be close with you no matter what. And I think that's something you can look for with a soulmate connection, is that you can be more unconditional with your love for them, that the love is constant and deep.
I think that's a really good point, because we are not raised in our culture to be unconditionally loving, forgiving, supportive. We are kind of like raised like, okay, this is my way, this is how I grew up, this is your way, this is how you grew up. Let's see if we can work this out. And sometimes that doesn't work. I just don't think you can do that in a twin flame situation and have it survive. I mean, you have to accept and be unconditionally loving and accept them as they are, even when it's, you're face to face going, oh no.
Or a twin flame relationship could slip through your fingers because you're expecting
Because
perfection and nirvana.
exactly. And I think that's a lot of what happens.
It happens with soulmates too. Make no mistake about it, because I've met couples who very clearly are soulmates and they're talking about divorce. And, my background's in the field of mental health, so I do a lot of couples work too, and just helping individuals with their relationships as well. But there's a lot of people who like too easily consider leaving the relationship behind when conflict arises. But that's really just like a challenge for you to work through and figure out a way. If you feel that deep connection, if you feel that trust, like Terri-ann was talking about, those are not things that are easy to find. Those are not things we should treat lightly. Those are things like we need to cling on to and go, you know what, we're going through a rough patch right now, but I really trust this person and I have deep love and I know they feel the same about me. We need to figure out a way to make this work. So I say this because one of the things I want to help our audience avoid is meeting a soulmate or a twin flame and letting them slip through their fingers, because of misconceptions.
I agree. I've thought, and especially in readings and working when, doing love readings over all the years, I thought, man, there's something about these last decades where there's this, to me, and who am I to say, but a misconception about how people are really easily disposable. So that's the opposite energy or the distortion around us and our belief systems, especially if we're running 100 miles an hour and we got phones and someone's prettier, younger, taller, shorter, or whatever it is. And it just feels like it's like people are not used tissues. And if you do have those, like we were saying in the twin flames or soulmate connections, if you do have that, you just know that true love that is hard to come by, and to perhaps maybe in this time period while we're awakening more and more on many levels and the mass consciousness, maybe that's one of the lessons, or what the divine is really, the light's trying to help us see in ourselves in that mirror, is that we are lovable, valuable, worthy, and so are they. They can, again, I'm just laughing at some of the, it makes me giggle, some of the, especially twin flames or mirrored soul, mirror, how tremendously tumultuous that is to look in the mirror and see the opposite distortion that we are all carrying together and go, oh, but I trust you the most. Like, I trust you. You're the most safe person I've ever seen. I see God in your eyes. I see the truth in you, you know, and not throw each other away during the tumultuous times or walk away just because you had a fit, or, which, you know, a little Aries fit does happen on occasion at my house.
Yeah.
It's a little bit funny to me. I mean, funny in the overall, but I believe, especially in this Valentine's time where we get to choose to believe in true love and companionship and balance and purpose together. Like, I wonder if in these next years we might all of us be opening our eyes a little bit more to the, like Ivory, like what you were saying, you know, we are important. We're all God's children. And if you recognize your twin flame or soulmate, I think we better remind them how, thank you. I don't like you right now, but because that was upsetting for a moment in the mirror, but how important they are, and to learn and grow, step towards that unconditional love and that acceptance of others, the unity consciousness rising.
It's a really good point about not being easily disposing of people. And what I'm sure what Melissa means by that is like walking away from a relationship, whether it's love or friendship or family, walking away from it like everything that's been put into it up to this point is worthless because you're going through a rough time right now. Now, I want to say, as a person who's been in very abusive relationships, that does not mean that you have an obligation to stay and continue to be abused when a person shows no inclination of changing or improving their behavior towards you. You have an obligation to save yourself. You know, that's a different story. But having an argument, having a disagreement, and even a recurring one is not a reason to toss that relationship aside. So that is interesting you say that, Melissa, because I think about that a lot. More and more as the years go by, it seems like that's happening. And I don't really understand why that is. It's disenfranchising of relationships of all kinds. So that's something we can all focus on individually, is just being more cognizant of hanging on to the love that we have for the person and not letting the angst of the moment tear it apart. It's just something you have to work through, whether it's twin flame, soulmate, or any other relationship.
Very important. That's really important.
It is, because I mean, I know everybody I know who's been in a twin flame relationship has had moments when they're like, maybe it's not going to work out, but it does. You know, it does work out. And I think that's something that you can think about too. So it's very possible that you're in a relationship with a twin flame or a soulmate, but you had misconception about what it was going to be like. So hopefully this show is sort of a little wake up call for you so that you can retain that relationship and explore it. And I think that, Melissa, you brought something up we really need to explain. You brought up the mirroring effect. That's likely, now that we're on all these different podcast platforms, there's going to be some people watching this who don't know what that means. Can you explain?
Yeah. As a, and I'm seeing through eyes of energy perspective. So when we're with a twin flame or soulmate, sometimes our could be issues. It could be our beautiful pieces as well, like our light, our purposes, passions. We can see it in the other person and we can recognize that. So if I'm going to look at two pieces. Like, for instance, if I'm an amazing artist and I just can't get over how much my person is creative and artistic, I just recognize every ounce of that in them. That's a mirror to me. And if it is a distortion or an issue like abuse, I as well have had a lot of abuse. So it's hard for me to look up out of that, come up out of that perspective. Sometimes we can see that in the other, we can see that in our twin flame, and then it can all go crazy and be real ugly because we don't know how to, we're just our inner children, our little children looking at each other, these grown up people, and their issues are bouncing off each other, being a mirror to each other. And that's perhaps not the whole person, but sometimes we get stuck in that mirror effect, and we would all prefer to see the beautiful pieces, like just what an amazing compassionate heart my person has. I want to soak it in and feel it and learn from it and grow with it. But that distortion sometimes is the one where we go, no, they're terrible, they're ugly, they're too tall, they're too short, because we can't look at that in ourselves. So the mirror is just literally like a mirror reflection that we see in our person, and that we, should probably want to learn from and expand from, but sometimes it kicks our buns and we drop kick ourselves on accident on the ground face down, and we break the mirror for a minute, and we forget how to do it. But the mirror, it's like a really cool, to me, it's like a cool God gift if we can sort of stay in balance and see how we can learn from that and enhance each other's experience in the world, and look in that mirror and go, I love you, I accept you. You can look in the eyes of the other person and I love you, I accept you, and realize you're talking to yourself. Is that helpful?
And I think an example of that is when you have somebody, whether it's a friend, a family member, whatever, coworker, that you tend to have a lot of disagreement with, or you feel like you're so different. And let's say the stubbornness thing, let's talk about the stubbornness or judgmental. Oh my gosh, that person is so judgmental. And, so when that happens for me, I like to stop myself and say, am I being judgmental in thinking that? I think I'm being judgmental in bringing that topic up within myself and examining it. And then I like to take a step back from that. I like that a lot. Take a step away and just look at myself, take it off that person, them fixing themselves. That's their journey. But I need to work on that myself clearly, because that is mirroring, like what you see in someone else, you are exhibiting in some way without whether you know it or not.
Mhm. Like the yin yang, also the opposite can come in the mirror. That's my perspective, at least. It helps me a lot. I mean, it helps me in my growth and learning, because I'm working on myself. But I love that what you said, Ivory, because I agree. Sometimes when you go, oh, that person is getting on my nerves, and you think, oh, wait a minute, maybe that's something that their energy, maybe consciously or unconsciously, is reacting to in me.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. And lots of people, different people have told me that they feel like they have that mirror put right in front of them when they're twin flames or a romantic soulmate, sometimes not even romantic, different kind of soulmates, but a mirror put right in front of them, and it just suddenly brings a focus to something they know they've needed to work on for themselves. And that can be one of the really difficult things about a soulmate relationship, a twin flame relationship. I think it challenges you. It's the basic idea of that.
And when you're challenged like that, the interesting part to me is you have this situation that suddenly you're face to face with that mirroring and with that growth and all that. And, you can succumb to the concept of like, okay, well, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. No, work on yourself. We're not put here to work on everybody else first. Work on yourself. Look deeply into these issues on which, you have a lot of mirroring, and you're feeling like, I can't agree. I can't agree with the other person. And I do this all the time, because because Ed and I as individuals, I mean, we both have the same spiritual goals. We feel the same about so many things. But on the issues where we don't agree, then I have to look at myself and say, okay, what is it here that we're not in agreement on, but yet when we look at each other, we see those basic goals of, having the best intention, trying to always be focused on helping others. Those goals are in place. Whatever it is that's going on between us, looking at ourselves as individuals and thinking, hey, I better address this. This is sometimes I'll say to myself, okay, I cannot justify my conduct here. So I need to really deal with myself because, I know that I have that Aries Ram thing. And I can be extremely, impatient when I get into that stubborn mode. And this is something that Ed and I work on ourselves all the time. So I think it's really important just to realize that these challenges are such a powerful part of awareness for yourself, awakening, and all that.
Absolutely. You don't want to run away from a challenge. When you're on a spiritual journey, those challenges that, once you climb over them, you overcome them, you shift forward. They're presented in many different ways. It can be through work. It can be through your hobbies. It can be through your relationships. And I actually think relationships is the primary way those challenges are presented. So if you run away from it, you're running away from spiritual growth. You're running away from personal growth. Just another way to look at it. Like, I think it's worth making the difficult climb and going through it. Just, going through the conflict, working it out. You learn more about yourself. You grow your capabilities of conflict resolution, improve. There's a lot of reasons to face it and work through it.
Exactly.
It's an opportunity.
It is.
Not every opportunity makes you get all excited.
I
Well,
agree.
and there's so much loneliness in the world. And so
No need
this
for that.
is, letting go of an opportunity for real love. As you were saying earlier, Ivory, that's kind of a travesty in our world, and a great sadness for people.
And a lot of times people don't realize they've done it until years later when they've healed, they get better perspective on themselves and situations, and they realize what that was an opportunity, a challenge opportunity, and they turned and left and walked away from it. And that's a choice. That's not, it's not devastation of your life, but it may have resulted in losing a potentially wonderful long-term relationship, whether it's love or not. But in this case, we're going to talk about soulmates and twin flames. Just expect there's going to be some challenges for you. That's normal. I don't know anybody in those relationships that doesn't have that. It's still a relationship.
Agreed.
And even the best marriages, I mean, there's people who say they never fight, but they have their other challenges. They have other things. They may just know within themselves that they are not happy about something about their spouse, their lover, and don't deal with it. That doesn't mean the challenges are not there. It's unrealistic to think that everything will always go smoothly. I've realized, I think it took me into my 30s to realize that when things are going really smooth in your life, when your relationship, you're getting along well and you're really happy and having a great time, cherish that, because there's going to come a time when things are not going to feel like that. Then you have a choice to make. Am I going to work through it? Am I going to learn something about myself? Am I going to come to more understanding of my partner? Or am I going to walk away?
Big question.
I think that if we want to look on the bigger world scale too, in these Valentine times or these awakening times, we can look at the different issues and things in the world and go, oh, when can my soulmate might be European or Europe or, a bigger world issue circumstance, and learn to come together and see each other as equal and reciprocate, balance, all that kind of stuff as well. So just had to throw that in there, because what if we're like mass consciousness moving into the higher love, and we can expand and have a cleaner, more clear description or definition in each of us what love really means.
That's right. Love is love is love, whether it's for your child, your parent, your romantic partner, humanity at large. Love is love. When you expand your heart, you expand your capacity for love. And I'm sure we're going to be doing a show about that sometime a few down the road. Since we're talking about love today, we'll move on to some other topics for a while, but there's so many nuances of all of this. And I just hope that hearing this today, especially from the ladies who are in a twin flame relationship, but that we were able to clear up some confusion and answer some questions. And we appreciate you tuning in today. If you have questions, you can always email us. It's ivoryangelic2@gmail.com, and I'll pass it on to all the ladies and we'll get back to you with our answers. So we're always here to answer questions for you. And now we are on iTunes. Our podcast is on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and a bunch of other podcast platforms. So you can find us on those and follow us there. And that will, of course, will be just audio. You've been watching the Sedona Soul Sisters show. If you'd like more information about us or our services, visit our website at sedonasoulsisters.com. And tune in next Friday when our topic will be obtaining true peace within. So the focus of that show is going to be truly finding peace within yourself. And in the meantime, we hope you have an enlightening week.